Our world is obsessed with technology. Lightning fast computers, fiber optic internet, and custom AI productivity apps, each promising to help you do more, make your life easier, and remove stress. And it's working. We're doing more than ever before. But instead of freeing us up, it's made our lives even more chaotic, busy, and disconnected. Technology has only partially delivered on its promise, and people are starting to notice. This has led to a group of people who are actively moving in the other direction, unplugging, dumbing down technology, or replacing it completely. And I'm one of them. Instead of chasing technology as a solution to my busyness, I'm selectively getting rid of it. It's the quietest and simplest my life has been in years. And surprisingly, I'm actually accomplishing more, not less. This video is not sponsored by anyone. If you appreciate that, dropping a like would really help me out. Everywhere you turn, someone is promoting a new, faster way to get something done. And trust me, this one will make all the difference, or so they say.
Reclaim is a new take on AI productivity tools.
You are seriously missing out if you don't have this app.
And they're a company that solves this problem.
I found that this app gives me peace.
Kind of like an iPad, but thinner, has a battery, has a stylus.
How to build a $10,000 a month one-person business.
After I thank the sponsor of today's video, it exists to help you develop real-world skills,
Helping me to stay focused and get things done faster than ever.
to be successful in your life.
It's the missing piece you've been looking for.
On the surface, this seems pretty straightforward. Get more done, be less stressed. But that's only partly true. The new calendar app that was supposed to save us time somehow makes our lives seem even fuller than before we had it. We try new systems, work even harder to get ahead, only to find that the proverbial treadmill doesn't end, leaving us exhausted, overworked, and even farther from a solution. This has been a constant struggle of mine over the years. I would have spurts of energy where I would surge ahead, trying to get ahead of the noise, only to swing back into long bouts of exhaustion. I had to realize I was fighting fire with fire, trying to solve my frantic pace by adding more into my life. This led me to a group that I've had my eye on for some time. Some call them the new rich or digital minimalists, and they try some pretty radical ideas, such as a dashing Matt D'Avella using a dumb phone for a month, Joshua Winiarski replacing his phone with an iPod, or Yona taking long solitude days in the Nordic wilderness. And let's not forget the ones that use clickbaity titles like replacing their phone with a pocket notebook. Wait a second. I decided to dive even deeper into this quiet rebellion to see how it could help me step out of this cycle of churn and burn. One of the most common responses to this excess of speed and technology is to try a detox.
How do you know you have a problem and you need a digital detox?
There may be a solution. It's a digital detox, unplugging electronics completely.
I highly recommend taking digital detoxes sporadically.
The intent is to reset your mind through a period of destimulation.
Today I'm talking about dopamine detoxing.
You might need a digital detox.
With no phone, internet, or social contact.
The first thing people tried was to detox.
This is where a person eliminates a form of technology for a period of time.
No more TikTok, no more Twitter.
Or if you want to be an absolute caveman, no phone for a month. I think something inside of us naturally likes the idea of a detox. We get technology out of our system by sheer willpower, prove that it doesn't control us.
I cut my screen time by 80%.
And slowly bring it back into our lives. Correctly, this time. It often gives us a sense of control over these forces. Except it doesn't work. Maybe your experience has been different, but every time I've tried a technology detox, it hasn't slowed my life down. I just find other ways to entertain and distract myself. Instead of using my phone, I distract myself at work. I quit watching reels and suddenly fall in love with a new TV show. Worse yet, it hasn't created lasting change. I scroll a little bit here, make an exception there, until eventually, I'm right back where I started. It's easy to think that maybe I didn't have the right approach, or I didn't have enough willpower, or didn't do it long enough. But the truth is, it just doesn't work. And people who manage technology well know this. Why would you say a detox isn't the solution to this business that we feel?
So when you think about what a detox is, That implies that there is a toxin, like a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction. So the whole point of a detox is to put yourself into an environment that ultimately is very uncomfortable and like rid yourself of that poison, in a sense. Never with the goal of saying, oh yeah, I'll just kind of slowly reintegrate it back into my life. Once I get this drug out of my system, then I'll just use it again, but in, more moderate amounts. No, that's ridiculous. It's just one more thing that sets us up ultimately to fail from what we most want, which is a healthy, balanced relationship with social media, with our screens. I think what people are wanting with a detox is a reset. So if that's the intention, then I think there are steps you can take. I think we need to pay attention to the terms that we use and what they imply. If you really think you need a detox, then I think you need to take a look at what is the toxin and is it actually something I want to reintegrate back into my life?
The solution to exiting the noisy world of busyness isn't through a detox. After all, this group of people still uses technology, but they do it very differently than most. For many years, technology radically sped up and simplified our lives.
An automatic blanket washing program that uses a minimum of agitation.
Automobiles made transportation more efficient, but were also more reliable and didn't need as much maintenance and upkeep. Tractors are a basic but good example as well. They allowed us to harvest crops faster and easier, freeing up time and allowing for more production and financial freedom. It was a very simple equation. Technology reduced the effort needed while simultaneously simplifying how we advanced. But as technology kept improving, these advancements started creating a very negative byproduct: complexity. At first, this complexity was minimal, and people didn't really pay any mind to it. Owning a cell phone in 2008 required a phone purchase, trip to the store, monthly payments, and a few other clunky mechanics, and of course, an amazing belt clip so that everybody could see you had a cell phone. But it really wasn't that much to manage. But fast forward to present day, and you have the same scenario repeated hundreds of times, all simultaneously. We have accounts, reward programs, apps, software, subscription services, server hosts, algorithms, ads, social media, messaging apps, calendar apps, and the list goes on and on and on, each requiring a little slice of your mental bandwidth. Worse yet, it's completely normal to keep adding to the list. In fact, it's expected. You can't just write a thought down in your pocket notebook. That will never do. You need to use a Notion database so that you can categorize and access that idea from anywhere. Oh, but of course, you need to read Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte so that you can learn how to organize and manage your system so that your Notion database, which has information in it you haven't looked at in years but might someday need, is organized and easy to manage. This sort of complexity is somewhat praised by social media. The more complex and elaborate, the more productive it seems. We're told that if we just add this system, software, or buy this course, we will finally get ahead of our busyness. Or we're straight up lied to and told that something like an email course that runs while you're sleeping selling your products is simple and easy to set up. So we buy the course and find reality is much more grueling. I've spent the last 6 to 7 years running down these rabbit holes. I've read books, listened to podcasts, bought courses, and they usually have one common theme. Add this special formula and your life will get better. But I've come to realize that many of these are simply adding more and more complexity.
That has a lot of nuance, and if you don't do it right, nothing will happen.
Resulting in constant maintenance.
I'd love for you to have a product right now, but
endless learning curves.
Again, we'll talk more about that next week.
And being even farther behind than ever.
$9.97 for a year for the next week for you. I would recommend hopping in right now.
I'd like to propose that perhaps this isn't the answer. That instead of asking how we can speed up and do more, we should be asking a much different question. One that Matt D'Avella puts absolutely perfectly.
Will this make my life simpler or more complicated?
When we think about people setting aside technology and slowing down, we often think of the extremes: social media fasts, flip phones, and a ridiculous amount of notebooks and planners. What? But the reality is a lot less romantic, and when it really gets boiled down, most of this is something resembling radical simplicity. When I realized this, all of these weird experiments started making a lot more sense. They're not a detox. It's all a form of challenging the status quo to see how eliminating something affects our lives, and if we need it.
These people that are kind of doing these radical experiments, no phone for a month. My friend Josh deleted all the apps on his phone so he could literally only text and call with it. From your perspective, what motivates people to do things like that?
Wisdom or discretion will always require some kind of limitation. And I think the same applies to any kind of conversation around screen time or social media use, because the natural instinct is to just hoard, give me all you can give me. The irony, though, is that that's not actually freedom. That actually binds us more. Practicing a slower way of life means limiting ourselves.
This approach flies in the face of mostly what we hear on the internet, which is that we need to do more, not less. But who cares? I decided to try it anyway. First, I had to get over my fear of possibly being left behind, and basically stopped adding technology into my life, unless it replaced more than it added. I get countless emails asking me to test out the latest and greatest productivity software, so I thanked them and then promptly deleted their emails. Next, I started actively trying to replace technology. I bought a physical alarm clock, traded in my productivity apps for a physical planner, and started obsessively buying pocket notebooks. I stopped trying to do everything in one place, and instead, I started leaning into the particular strengths of each tool. I found that pen and paper was the best way for me to brainstorm ideas, not ChatGPT. My physical planner increased my focus by at least 200%, unlike any and all productivity apps I've ever tried, and my phone was best used for calendar events, calls, messaging, and navigation, which is why it was originally created, FYI. For the technology that I couldn't replace, after much experimentation, I decided to assign limitations to them. My laptop is for video editing only, and my iPad is for anything writing related. This simplifies how I use each piece of technology and the apps and softwares I need on each one. And best of all, it prevents multitasking. For some people, it's going to be different, but that's kind of the point. We aren't trying to build a formula. We're trying to build a lens to view the world through.
I think you have to really identify what it is you want. That was the keystone element for me in designing the Clarity Planner, was the quote, "Tell yourself the truth, what matters most," instead of, oh, all these things, all these extra things will help me be more efficient, more productive, get more done, fuller, richer life, or whatever. The trade is actually robbing us oftentimes of things that we really value. And so you can come to the end of a day having been really productive, say, in your tasks, but feeling really hollow. Like, what did I even gain from this day?
Each of us has to experiment to see what we need and what will simplify and slow down our lives. I can't speak for others, but for me, this has led to a slower, more focused life. And surprisingly, it's helping me do more of what truly matters to me.